Salve discipuli and welcome to week 2 of Latin class. It was so nice to meet you all last week and I'm excited to jump into some actual Latin. Now, those of you who had Latin with Magister Cummings last year in 7th grade, this is going to be more of a review for you, hopefully. Hopefully, a lot of this is going to look at least somewhat familiar to you. You might not remember all of it because I know it's been a while since you were actually in Latin class, so this should be very helpful for you. For my new students, I know there's a couple of you. Don't worry, we're going to get you caught up. That's why we're doing this review. This will be more of an introduction for you into Latin. So today we're going to be talking about Latin nouns. This is kicking off our review. We've started reviewing some vocabulary. Hopefully you've gotten to take a look at those vocab lists so far. And today we're going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of how Latin nouns work, because they're pretty different from how English nouns work. We are going to split this lesson into 3 videos. I didn't want to have one super long video to overwhelm you, so I've split it into 3 parts to focus on the different parts of how Latin nouns work, so it'll be hopefully a bit more bite-sized, manageable chunks. So let us get started. So I don't take too long. Whoop. What is going on? Hang on. Okay, Latin nouns. All right, part 1. Sorry, technical difficulties with this. Overview of how Latin nouns work. Nouns in Latin have the same definition as they do in English. A noun is a person, place, or thing, or idea. So nouns work the same in Latin as they do in English. They don't change, okay? So that's what a noun is. It's what it always is. Don't worry about that. A way in which Latin nouns are different from English is that they have what we call grammatical gender. Now, this is not unique to Latin. Quite a few languages actually do this. English happens to just be one that doesn't. So this can be kind of a strange concept for native English speakers. Now, if you are fortunate enough to know a second language, Spanish as an example, you'll be a bit more familiar with this. So in Latin, nouns can be either masculine, feminine, or neuter. Now, this doesn't work the same way of how we often tend to just think of gender in general. A noun that is masculine doesn't mean that it's a boy. That's not how it works, okay? And neuter is actually where we get our word neutral. It just means it's neither masculine nor feminine. It's its own extra thing. And again, this is purely related to grammar and how the noun functions, how its endings are formed in Latin. So don't worry too much about this. If you're a little confused, just make sure you're not thinking, oh, masculine means boy, feminine means girl. It's not that cut and dry. There are a bit more grammar differences in that. So, something that is also the same in English as in Latin. Okay, so we had a same thing, a different thing, now we've got a same thing again. Nouns can be singular or plural, and they will change from singular to plural. English does do this. 1 hand, 2 hands. One of the most common ways of making words plural in English is to add an S, although sometimes it's a bit different, like foot becomes feet, mouse becomes mice. So Latin works the same way in that it's going to change its ending from singular to plural, and we'll talk more about that. Now, this is the part that is very different from English. Latin nouns have cases. So what this means is that nouns will have different endings depending on their grammatical function, and we're going to dive real deep into this for this part 1 of the video. So this is something that is also not unique to Latin. I did study some German in college, and German has this to an extent as well. Again, English just doesn't, so it's a bit strange for us as English speakers. And then the other thing that is different is noun declensions. Declension is basically a fancy word for a group of nouns that have the same pattern of endings. And again, we'll get more into that in part 2 and 3 of this lesson. So, for our noun cases, something to keep in mind with Latin is that it's what we call an inflected language. What that means is that Latin sentences get their meaning from word forms and endings instead of word order. English word order is crucial to meaning. The sentence, the dog bites the man, is a very different sentence from the man bites the dog. When you change the order of the words, you change the meaning in English. In Latin, word order is a bit more flexible because words get their meaning, their function, from the endings of each individual word rather than their position in a sentence. And we'll talk more about that and we'll get some examples of that in a little bit. So since Latin words get their meaning from endings, it is important to know that Latin nouns will change their endings depending on their case, right, their function in the sentence, and whether they are singular or plural. So again, a noun's case tells us its grammatical function in a sentence, so that's how you know what's going on in the sentence. This sounds very strange to us as English speakers because it's very different from how English works, but we're going to ease you into it, so don't panic. There are 5 total cases in Latin. You should have learned 2 of them last year if you took Latin last year. So those are the 2 we're going to be reviewing, and as we continue in Latin, we will learn some more of them. So, let's look at these cases. First, we have the nominative case. This is one of the cases you learned last year. It's the first case you learned in Latin. It is the most important case. In this case is used when the noun is the subject of a sentence or clause. So this is a case you're going to see very often because every sentence has to have a subject, yes? So this is the most important case for now, at least, and actually probably moving forward, that you will have. So nominative case when it's the subject of a sentence. An example of this in English and in Latin, we have that sentence, the dog bites the man. We have the dog as our subject. It's the thing doing the verb, right? In Latin, this sentence would be canis mordet virum. So we have this word canis is our word for dog, mordet is our verb bites, and then virum is our word for man. Now, remember what I talked about, if you change the word order in English, it's going to change the meaning. So we have the kind of reverse sentence, the man bites the dog. In Latin, I've changed the word order as well, but what I want you to know here is that the endings of these words have changed. Vir here, our word for man, since this is now our subject of the sentence, it has changed its ending from virum, right? And then canem, here our word for dog, canis was when it was the subject, canem, it's the direct object in this sentence. So we'll see that. So keep that in mind, our word endings will change. Genitive case is the next case. We haven't learned this one yet, so we're going to kind of move past it and come back to it, but I did want to just give you all the names of the cases so that they are at least somewhat familiar when we do introduce them. Dative case is another one we'll be introducing later on. And then we have accusative case, and this is the other case that you should have learned last year. This is going to be used when a noun is the direct object, when it is receiving the action of the verb in the sentence. So using our example sentences, in the sentence, the dog bites the man is our direct object, it's receiving the action of the verb. Again, in our sentence in Latin, that virum, our word for man, has that ending. That changes, right, when it's from the subject form to its direct object form. Again, the man bites the dog. In this sentence, the dog is the direct object, and again, we saw that change in the word from canis to canem. Our last case in Latin is ablative. Again, one we're going to learn eventually. Don't worry about it too much. But these are the 5 cases that you will learn in Latin. For now, we're focusing on nominative, our subject case, and accusative, our direct object case. All right, and that concludes part 1. So in part 2, we're going to get more into what the actual endings are for our nouns in those cases and those groups of nouns that I talked about, the declensions. So feel free to watch this video as many times as you want, and then head on over to part 2 for some more examples on how Latin works with nouns in their endings and their declensions. Thank you, and walete.